Hey guys, this is Mike Chen. Why do people lie? As much as we would love to deny it, we've all done it at some point in our lives. And there could be a lot of reasons why people lie. We do it to protect ourselves or someone else. We lie to avoid conflict or to escape punishment. There are also those who do it out of pride or to manipulate the situation. It's easy and it makes us feel good to say that we had good reasons to lie. But at the same time, I think it's safe to say that we all hate it when we're the ones being lied to. Now, although people lie for countless various of reasons, but signs of lying are somewhat universal. In fact, studies say 54% of lies can be accurately spotted. And if you pay really close attention, that can still increase up to 90%. So in this video, we're going to give you a crash course on how to spot a liar in just 5 steps. So sit back, relax, and prepare to be an expert lie detector in the next 10 minutes. What everyone should know is that there are 2 basic types of lies. The first and more common is the white lie. We all do it once in a while to save face or to prevent someone from getting hurt, like saying, hey, does this jacket make me look fat? No, you look great. That jacket actually makes you look really slim. But there are also strategic lies, deceptions meant to mislead other people or put the blame on someone else. These lies are less common, but definitely more destructive. Fortunately, a recent research from the University of California suggests that humans have preset instincts in detecting liars, although these are often outweighed by our conscious minds. The following are tips we have gathered from several experts who have mastered the science of lying. The first step in spotting a liar is always to establish a baseline. Know how a person typically behaves. If you're not familiar with how they act when they're telling the truth, there's a lower chance of you identifying uncharacteristic expressions when they're lying, meaning it's much easier to detect lies from a relative or a friend as compared to a complete stranger. But that doesn't mean you have no means of finding out if an unfamiliar person is indeed lying. The key is to ask a few questions that have safe and typical answers, such as what their name is and where they live. That way, you will be able to identify the changes in their behavior when you start asking more challenging questions. Second, pay attention to their body language. One thing you'll immediately notice is that they stand very still. A person who's lying will try to pull his arms and legs in toward his body. Studies say this could be a sign that the body is preparing for a possible confrontation. In a normal conversation, it is natural for us to move in a relaxed and subtle manner, which is, for the most part, unconscious. But when someone is holding a very rigid stance, that almost always means that something is off. The same goes for the total opposite. When a person fidgets a lot, a telltale sign that he is nervous, he will repeatedly touch his nose, rub his lips, run his fingers through his hair, or tug on his clothes. That's because when a person is lying, he will be too uncomfortable to stay in one position for a long time. Number 3, watch out for facial movements and expressions. When a person is lying, you will find a lot of clues in his face. First up, the eyes. According to scientific studies, a person who's recalling an actual visual or auditory memory tends to look to the right. For example, someone who's trying to remember what he had for lunch will unconsciously look to the right to picture that salad or that sandwich or that turkey, while a person who's still constructing answers and imagery tends to look to the left because they're trying to imagine at that point what they want to have for dinner. It is important to note, though, that the contrary is to be observed from a left-handed person who will tend to look to the right when he's lying and to the left when he's recalling real events. Which brings us back to number 1, familiarize yourself with the person you're interrogating. One more thing to observe in the eyes is whether a person is trying to avoid your gaze. For someone who deems lying as wrong, looking at another person in the eyes takes too much toll on one's emotional and cognitive energy and could overload one's senses. And so we try to reduce our guilt by not holding eye contact. But if a person is a proud liar, he will not be ashamed to look you straight in the eye while he tells you his lies. A practiced liar will maintain an uncomfortable eye contact that could last up to 70% of your conversation. Studies say maintaining eye contact 50% of the time is considered normal. But an expert con man will even use a cold and steady gaze to try to intimidate and take control of the situation. A person who's telling the truth will not be afraid to look you in the eye once in a while, but will also naturally shift his eyes around and look away from time to time. Now, from the eyes, look down to the lips. A highly stressful situation often causes the mouth to dry out. If the person is excessively licking his lips, there is a great chance that the lie is stressing him out. Also, when a person who's not good at lying lies, he or she will touch their nose when saying the lie. Studies show that a person touches his or her nose when they believe something bad has happened. This is because when a person gets a negative feeling, the blood capillaries in the nose contract, making him or her feel the need to touch or scratch it. But of course, this particular sign only applies to people who consider lying as wrong. Number 4, observe language and speech patterns. Stuttering and stammering are two most common evidence that a person is lying, especially if they were caught in the act. If they were given the time to calm down before being questioned, take note of hard-line pauses. This is a telltale sign that a person is still constructing his or her story and is pausing to think of what to say next. You will also notice that a person will start talking slower, while a liar is thinking hard to get the facts straight in his or her head. The brain will subconsciously slow down his or her speech patterns. Repetitive throat clearing and hard swallowing may also mean that a person is being untruthful. Scientific studies say this is our body's fight or flight stress response, which causes the moisture, usually in our throat, to route to our skin in the form of sweat. That's why we sweat a lot during stressful situations. Also, be mindful of changes in the tone and voice as well. A liar would typically answer denials in a high-pitched voice as compared to a calm tone when he or she absolutely has no idea what you're talking about. Finally, number 5, and most importantly, listen to what the person is actually saying. Mainly, a liar would have an answer to everything. We all have a lot going on in our lives, so it's easy to forget what we even had for dinner last night, much less what we did at 3 o'clock last Wednesday. If a person has an answer to everything you ask, then either he or she has impeccable memory or they have anticipated your questions and have prepared a corresponding answer to cover up his or her tracks. So when a person has zero hesitation when answering a question, that's already a dead giveaway. Also, liars think that being more specific gives you less chance to see holes in the story. They will embellish on detail, even those that are not necessary, like the color of the card they used or the amount of cheese they put in their burrito. A liar would drone on and answer questions even before you ask them. So you can use this to your advantage by scrutinizing every single detail and analyze if the story does check out. You can also ask the person to repeat the whole story, or better yet, backwards. If they're lying, they should drop a few details or add information that was not previously mentioned. Any deviation from the original story may mean this person is lying. Another thing to note is that a liar would be very repetitive in his or her answers. A study says there are 3 possible reasons why a liar does this. One, and the most obvious, to convince the other person that what he's saying is true. He believes that insisting he didn't eat the last donut, even though there were only 2 of you in the room, might make you think that it was the dog that did it. And 2, to validate the lie in their minds and eventually convince themselves that the lie did happen. And 3, to buy time while trying to gather their thoughts and invent a story. So by saying it wasn't me 10 times would indeed give them enough time to think of an excuse. Also, look out for this. A liar would repeatedly say the words honestly or to tell you the truth or any other variations of that. Also, observe the shift in the use of pronouns. You will notice that a liar will try to communicate with lesser personal pronouns and talk in a strangely impersonal manner. They're less likely to use the words I, me, or my in an attempt to distance themselves from the actual events. A liar would rather use third-person pronouns like she, he, or they to try to shift the blame to other people. So there you have it. Those are the 5 steps to identify a liar. Now keep in mind, even if you're really good at this, even if you can utilize all 5 methods at the same time, it only really guarantees you 90% accuracy. But even so, these should provide you with much needed initial defense against deception. Also remember that despite fully understanding the science, nothing beats a concrete evidence to dispute a lie. Also, I just want to say, if you saw this video and you took notes and immediately start thinking about interrogating your significant other, maybe that person isn't the right one for you. Alright guys, thank you all so much for watching this video. I'll see you later.